I think Dr. Blakey, anytime you're ready, you can get us started.
Sorry, I didn't know I was starting it. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our March meeting. And I believe it looks like we're still waiting for a few people to come on to make quorum, but we'll go ahead and get started. I know at our last meeting, we talked about passing the baton on to our new chair for this upcoming year. So we're really excited that the county will be hosting as chair for the board. And so we welcome our county manager, Cindy Chavez. Also important to note that if you get put into a new role and you're on the board, you become the chair. So I know how you feel. um, being able to experience your first meeting and chair, because that's how I was welcomed into. So we're really excited to have you leading us as the chair of ABC, and I will turn it over to Cindy Chavez.
Thank you so much, Dr. Blakely. And you're right. This is a very unique experience to be brand new on a board and to become its chair. I'm really excited and honored to be following you, and also to say we have some new board members joining us as well. And I'm really enjoying everybody's picture on the screen. Just to say this out loud, I would like to just say a very big thank you, Dr. Blakely, to you. And I will turn it over briefly to Deanna just to acknowledge you. And maybe, Deanna, if you wouldn't mind doing that, and then we'll turn to Commissioner Baca's first as our newest member besides me.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity to once again thank you, Dr. Blakey, for being a wonderful chair this past year. Of course, you are still on the board, and so we're excited to continue working with you to continue building, developing, and implementing the community school strategy in APS and in Bernalillo County. We hope that you got a little token of our appreciation yesterday.
I did. Thank you very
Oh,
much.
good. You're you're very welcome. We have a tradition of handing a cookie bouquet to thank our outgoing board members. And so on that note, we also want to again thank Danette Townsend, who has been a member of the ABC board and part of ABC and developing community schools here since 2006. So it's a historic moment here today. And so just thank you so much to our outgoing board members and outgoing chair, and welcome to our new board members. And I'll turn it back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And I'm going to turn real quick and just with excitement recognize our other new board member, Commissioner Frank Baca. And Commissioner, I didn't know if you maybe wanted to just say a few words at this time.
Just that I'm happy to be involved in this group. I'm newly elected County Commissioner District 2, Southwest area, Bernalillo County, South Valley, Southwest Mesa. Education is interests of mine going back many years, obviously, as all of us here on this call are. So no, I'm just excited to listen and to learn and see how I can be involved and be of support.
Thank you. And I'm delighted to get a chance to work with you on this. And then also I see that Mayor Keller has joined us. Welcome, Mayor. And I'm really excited to seeing you and working with you on this board. Would you like to say a few words?
Oh, sure. Well, thanks so much, and congratulations to our new chair. And this board does great things. And so really, I'm just here out of gratitude to let everyone know how much I appreciate it. My kids have been in and out of actually some of your programs. And we've made a lot of progress too in some new areas, like with the walking school bus work out by Whittier in some of the schools in the International District. And we're very excited about the universal basic income work with, I think it's also Whittier and Cristo Ray. And so, or Carlos Ray. And so there's a lot of new things in the queue for the board to work on, and we appreciate everyone's work kind of teeing that up. And now we're excited to get all those efforts right out to our kids.
Excellent. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm going to turn it over to Deanna, who's going to get us introductions to our next presenter and speaker and keep us rolling. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. If you wouldn't mind resharing the slides, Alex. So we have quite a few exciting updates for the board this morning. So I'm going to start with the first update, and we'll be joined in just a moment by Dr. Emily Germain, who will be explaining this further, but allow me, if you don't mind, to give some context. So the Bomber Group, which some of you may have heard of, they are national and regional funders who really look at specific levers for change, and they're looking mostly for systemic change. And so what they really are interested in is strengthening and developing place-based partnerships, which we are all here today in service of that. They like to identify where governments are partnering, which very evident today, so that's exciting. And they really want to invest in systems change through advocacy and using data access and scaling. And so they have been funding certain types of community school efforts for many years now. And they are very interested in looking at Albuquerque. They will be including us in a study coming out here very shortly that Emily will talk about around how we braid and blend our funding streams. So what you're seeing in front of you right now is the 23-24. So this is last school year. This is how we are funding for the most part. This doesn't include everything, but it's almost everything around community school development. So this includes salaries for community school coordinators, which as most of you or all of you are aware, there is a state statute in New Mexico that says that to be a community school, you must have a full-time community school coordinator. And so that's one of our priorities, is funding those positions in the schools in APS. And so the salary is included in this. I'm going to show you a further breakdown of exactly how much of this is salary. And then there is dedicated infrastructure. So Bernalillo County, for example, funds for the most part the staffing for the ABC board support and the support for the community schools in Albuquerque Public Schools. And then there's program and service funding, which a large majority of that comes from the city of Albuquerque. And then there's community school development funding. And we do have, last year, we had a large portion of funding for salaries and programs come from our state community school public education department grant program. That actually has dropped down this year. So next year, we'll give you an update of how we worked the funding out for this school year. So Alex, if you go to the next slide. So we broke this down by entity, just so that each government entity can see. So for example, the city of Albuquerque contributes $50,000 to Homework Diner. They contribute $807,000 to out-of-school time programming. And just a note that funding is not community school specific. It is open to all schools in APS. And then there is also a specific set aside from last year for out-of-school time charter schools as well from the city of Albuquerque. And then $241,000 of that funding goes toward community school coordinators. And then there's $50,000 that comes toward infrastructure to support ABC. And that's our support that we then return back to the board and to the schools in particular in APS and the charter schools. The next entity that we'll look at is Bernalillo County. So as I mentioned, Bernalillo County offers the infrastructure in staffing for community school development for the most part. So there's a large portion of that. There is community school development funding that is set aside. There is $550,000 of coordinator salaries that specifically goes to APS for those positions for community school coordinators. And then over the last couple of years, the county and ABC in particular have been the recipients of 2 federal awards. So one of those awards is $1.8 million from Senator Heinrich. And of that, we received $150,000 to build our capacity to support community school development slightly outside of Bernalillo County. This helped us stand up a technical assistance center for the state of New Mexico around community school development and implementation. And then we also received a $2.5 million full service community schools federal grant We are in year 3, and we're going to talk a little bit more specifically to you today about how we're doing on our progress toward our goals in that specific grant. And then next, we have Albuquerque Public Schools. So last year was a historic historic investment by Albuquerque Public Schools in community school development. As I mentioned, there was a large amount of money awarded to the district through the Public Education Department grant program that we assist the schools in writing and submitting those grants. We believe that the schools in ABC Community School Network are the best schools in New Mexico. And so we want our grant award to reflect that. And so we put a lot of effort into making sure that those grant applications are very well written and that our schools are making progress in their strategic plans. And then Albuquerque Public Schools does contribute $100,000 to the infrastructure and board support and support for community school development. And then there is a large, as I said, we had a historic investment last school year around schools using their budgets. Almost every single one, I think it was 58 of the 60 community schools contributed a portion of their school budget to support their community school coordinator. And this was done in a variety of ways. Some schools could only contribute a small amount, and some schools contributed the full position. So this was very exciting for us. It shows that principals and instructional councils and school staff and community partners really see the value in the community school coordinator position and having that there and why that's important. And they put their money where they believe it will contribute to the greatest return on investment. And so that was a very exciting thing to see for us last year with Albuquerque Public Schools investment. And then the last slide I'll share with you around this topic is just, this one is very specific to just the community school coordinator salaries. So we meet with the principals at budget call. We work through with them where their funding will come from, whether it's at risk, Title I, Juntos, bilingual. We have lots of different braided and blended funding streams from last year for community school coordinator positions. And then you can see the city, county, PED grants, federal grant, and district Title I is on there as well. So we broker almost $6 million just for the coordinator salaries. And then the rest of that funding that you saw goes to support program such as out of school time, expanded learning, homework diner, social services. We support McKinney-Vento around homelessness prevention, family stability programs, and lots of other things that we do that are community school specific. There's a great auto body shop program that we fund through the county at Highland for career development. So we have our fingers as staff in a lot of different initiatives in partnership with the district, and we braid and blend funding appropriately to support and sustain those efforts. And so I don't know if there's any comments or questions before we move on to Emily. Dr. Germain, sorry. Counselor Rogers has a question in the chat. Does every community school have a community school coordinator? The answer, Counselor Rogers, is yes. Every community school has a community school coordinator, and not only is that best practice in our experience since we've been doing this, it's necessary. Even for small schools, it's really important that they have that person to make those, to transform that school and to stabilize that neighborhood. But it is also, as I mentioned, in state statute that every community school must have a community school coordinator. The next question is, are all those positions filled? And the answer is, I believe we may have one vacancy right now from someone who just exited the position. But to my knowledge, I mean, generally, yes, they are almost always filled. I think sometimes people come and go in the middle of the school year, but we try really hard to make sure that they're all filled before we start the school year. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Emily. Is Emily here?
I'm here.
Okay, great.
Sorry, I'm traveling and I'm in DC for a conference and I had to get to our office. So apologies for being a little bit late to the meeting. So I think Deanna maybe prefaced why I'm here, and I saw quite a few of you a few months ago when we proposed doing a pilot study in Albuquerque and with partnership with ABC Community Schools to understand the financing, a lot of the picture of what Deanna just showed and how that's changed over time and how you're building in sustainability and infrastructure to really support community schools on such a large scale. And what has happened is that we were hoping, as I mentioned, to have you all be a site for the larger study that we're doing around mature systems of community schools. And that work is funded by Balmer, and we're looking at 3 different locations. And we have asked and decided, and hopefully you agree, we can always change, you could change our minds, but we are hoping to have ABC Community Schools and APS Community Schools be our second site for exemplar community schools. And so I've submitted an IRB to APS, so we should get a decision from them around April 15th. It's pretty similar to what I've submitted in the past, so I'm hoping that there won't be any issues, but I'm sure we can work that part out. But basically what that means is like not only will we be looking at the finances, but we'll be doing a larger picture of the system, how it works, how this partnership works, the role of the county and the city and the district and ABC Community Schools, and then looking at probably 2 sites that will be kind of nominated. I've asked Deanna to give kind of a short list of some schools that are really doing really strong implementation, have strong partnerships and good coordinators and collaborative leadership and councils. And then we'll kind of do some vetting around those schools and highlight to go deeper into 2 sites to kind of illustrate how the supportive infrastructure supports their work and how they are achieving outcomes for students and families in their community. So that's a really broad overview of our study. I think it's probably best if you want to ask questions. But I'll note 2 things, then I'll just open up for questions because it is fairly straightforward. Is that one of the criteria for us is that we are looking at places that are implementing the Community Schools Forward framework. And so Albuquerque took that up really quickly when it came out. And ABC Community Schools, a lot of your professional development and tracking of outcomes and implementation are deeply aligned. And so we think it'll be a really, really excellent case to share with places across the country that are just starting to take this up to see how it looks on the ground and how it really supports a more robust implementation of the strategy. And so that is a key piece for us. And we're really excited that not only is it taken up locally, but also at the state level. So it really shows kind of a systemic adoption of the Community Schools Forward framework and theory of action and indicators and outcomes. But then we're also looking at places that have started to really blend and braid funding and resources in a systemic and structurally sustainable way. And we think this is a great example as well. So I'll stop there, and I'm happy to just kind of field questions about the work and hopefully get everybody's support to really highlight what's happening. We're excited about it.
Thank you. Are there any questions or concerns or thoughts? No, this sounds like a great opportunity. Thank you for bringing it to us, truly.
Yes, and you'll probably hear from me because you are all part of this work. So kind of interviewing everybody who's participating in this partnership and the system and the structure will help us really explain how this all works. So you will eventually, once we get IRB approval, be hearing from us over the next several months to a year. Like this overall, I think will probably take 6 months to a year to do all of the work, both system level and school level. So just to give time frame, that's about how long the data collection will take. And then we'll produce several products from that, different reports, briefs, and you can see or ask me or Deanna for some stuff we've already done around New Mexico that you can see as kind of examples of the ways that we talk about community schools, both for practitioner audiences and policy audiences.
Thank you, Dr. Germain. And then Deanna, can I go back to you?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. And I did want to mention, sorry that I forgot to say, Dr. Germain is from the Learning Policy Institute and has done a lot of deep work in community school research across the country. And you did say, right, that we are only one of 2 who are participating in the study in the whole country, correct?
You are going to be one of 3. We have
One
2
of 3
sites decided already. So the other place that will be is in Greece, New York, which is upstate New York. So it'll be kind of a inner ring suburb of upstate New York. So we'll have a lot of geographic diversity, and then we're still figuring out where the third site will be. But two of three sites are decided to really highlight how this work is taking hold across the country. And we think it's going to be really helpful both for implementation and for policy, to just show how and why community schools are so important to continue to push for and sustain. And I could have also said I'm from the Learning Policy Institute, so apologies for not fully introducing myself.
All
So
right.
I just want to thank the board as well. What I showed you earlier around that braided and blended funding exists because of the work of this board, because of the commitment of the organizations on this board to making sure not only that community schools are funded, that they're funded at a level where they can grow, that they are funded at a way that they can be sustained, that you fund us, the infrastructure, right? So that not only are they funded, but they are implementing and they're doing it well to the extent where we have now been chosen as exemplars in the country. I think that speaks to the dedication and the long-term plan, right, that this board had envisioned from the beginning and has continued to sustain. And so I really appreciate that. And I also want to mention, of course, huge levels of appreciation to the practitioners at the school sites who make this work happen every day, who dig into it, who develop those partnerships, who sustain those partnerships, who use their funding wisely, and who engage their community so well in creating structures and systems and equity, which is what we are trying to do in community schools. I'm happy to move on to the next component if you would like me to. So Alex, if you want to bring up. So this is another just quick update, because I know you heard us talk about this a lot, January and February, our Housing Education Day, because we were so excited about it. So this was a partnership between it's ABC, so APS, Bernalillo County, City of Albuquerque, and we engaged the law school and legal aid. And we hosted over 107 educators, community school coordinators, mostly community school coordinators. We had some family liaisons there. We had all the McKinney-Vento staff from APS there. We had APS leadership there. And we had the city and county housing departments brought people, and it was really wonderful session. You can see some photos there. We had an opportunity to watch housing court cases live over Zoom. And so we did that for about an hour, and then we debriefed on what we observed, what the experience was, and then we talked about the new federal framework for homelessness prevention and what our role is as community schools, as coordinators, family liaisons, McKinney-Vento staff. Where do we all fall within that framework, and how do we support homelessness prevention, which is such an important component, right, of housing stability for students and leads to educational outcomes. And I wanted to just share with you quickly an email that was sent to me from an attendee who said the goal of the PD was to help community school coordinators understand that they have a role to play in preventing homelessness and support them in that role. And then he describes the day, how we went through the agenda. And then he says, personally, I thought it was an excellent session because it provided concrete ways for community school coordinators to operationalize the cross-sector collaboration that we all care about, and literally brought education staff into another sector through housing court observations, which were both sobering and jarring. It was also a great coming together of multiple sectors, the community school folks, the McKinney-Vento housing folks, legal aid, and UNM Law School, who served as our guides during the housing court proceedings. I took away a lot. I'm glad I was able to join, and I feel that it was one of the most impactful PDs I've ever attended. And that was a really nice feedback that we were given. So I just wanted to, again, thank everyone on the board. A lot of you had a role to play in making this day happen. And so thank you so much for that support, and also for your continued support for some projects related to this that we will update you on at another meeting. One other follow-up, if you want to go, we did a lot. And so we're sharing with you a lot of things. It's not normally this much talking from me today, and please bear with, I do not know how to pronounce the Hawaiian language very well. But I wanted to share with you, I don't know, those of you who remember and were part of the panel when we hosted last fall, a very large group of about 75 from Hawaii and Alaska who came here once again to see our exemplary community school implementation. And we visited Wilson Middle School as part of that. And so when they went back, they started their own walking school bus. I don't know if you can see, their t-shirts are so cute. They have little school buses on them. And so they shared just how excited they were, and they are using it specifically for two reasons. One is for sense of belonging. They want students to feel like people care that they come to school. And so this group of folks here that you can see with their t-shirts, they walk these students to school and just show them, right, by physical and by talking to them and by caring about them, that they really do care that these students are here every single day and how important that is for attendance. But they also wanted their students to feel or to understand just like how important school is. So this is a chronic absenteeism initiative that they are adapting from New Mexico. And this was in a newspaper article, and it did say that they did this after visiting New Mexico. And so I reached out to Jen Masutani, who was one of the organizers, and I said, "Oh, congratulations on your article and on the walking school bus. That's so exciting." And she told me, so many of our schools were inspired by our visit to New Mexico. Just visited a school yesterday who said that the Learning Lab totally changed their perspective and helped them take their community school efforts to a whole other level. They were lagging at creating a community school council, but now have one, and their school is really excited about collaborating. And so those of you who know, the community school coordinators are charged with leading those community school councils, which are collaborative spaces in schools. So we have really inspired Hawaii and the public schools in Hawaii. So I just wanted to share that with you. I thought that was such a nice thing for us to know about. And I think that's all for our updates.
Thank you, Deanna, and amazing work. That's a lot of joy that and opportunity that's being shared. So thank you. Deanna, do we have a quorum?
Yes, we do.
Thank you. I'm going to ask then for a motion to approve the agenda. May I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, okay, good. Not so much controversy over the agenda. Good job. All right. And the approval of our minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Counselor Rogers, motion to approve our minutes.
Thank you. And a
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed and abstentions. Seeing none, that passes. Now, there's no new items to vote on, but we're going to move right over to our community school essentials supportive infrastructure. And Deanna, do you mind introducing this briefly for us?
I am very happy to. So I see Dr. Bernstein is here, right? Is she here? Yes. Okay. Yay. Yes. Hi. Great. So yeah, this involves her. So just following up on all the lovely things I shared a moment ago, the American Federation of Teachers reached out to us a few months ago and asked us if we would be willing to host another site visit. And this time it is some people from Wichita, and they actually don't have any community schools yet. They're interested in starting. And so, of course, we immediately connected with our local AFT union here, the Albuquerque Teachers Federation. So, Dr. Bernstein, if you could give us some updates on that.
Thank you, Deanna, and hello, everybody. Welcome, Cindy, to
Thank you.
our Community School Council. The AFT started, for me, and I've said this many times, started talking about the community school strategy as a promising practice for public schools some 30 years ago, and it has just bloomed. The American Federation of Teachers has over 3,000 local unions and supports many of us in our work to partner with others, like here in Albuquerque, on promoting and establishing community schools. So we're really excited to welcome our colleagues from the United Teachers of Wichita and the AFT national representatives that will come with them to Albuquerque. They'll be here March 31st to April 2nd. The visit will provide them an opportunity to understand our history and the impact of the Joint Powers Agreement. And that's the way we formed this board back in 2007, and the way in which our collaborative efforts have sustained it. Our visitors will include the superintendent, school board members, and the president of the United Teachers of Wichita. And we'll be exploring with them how to implement community schools in their district. We look forward to providing insight into the structures, the strategies, and the lessons that have made the ABC Community School Partnership successful, while also discussing how aspects of our model might be adapted to meet the needs of the Wichita Public Schools. Cross-sector collaboration has been essential to our work, bringing together educators, unions, local government entities, and community organizations to ensure schools remain responsive to student and family needs. The role of unions across the country and ATF locally have been vital in shaping these policies, advocating for sustainable funding, supporting the professional development for all the educators working within this framework. Partnerships across the sectors have helped to build a shared commitment to community schools, reinforcing their role as hubs of opportunity and supports for students and families. So I am so proud and pleased that of all the locals in the American Federation of Teachers, they are connecting people with Albuquerque as an exemplar of success and sustainability. And so I'm just wanted to tell you we're thrilled to have them.
Are there any questions or comments on this item? I don't see any. So congratulations. I think it's very exciting, and I look forward to being invited to participate in part of that. That's just really lovely. And I didn't realize the partnership was so storied and so long. So thank you for that. So Deanna, I'm going to ask you to introduce another doctor. We are just full of doctors today. Dr. Bloodworth, if you don't mind, Deanna.
Of course. And before I do that, I'll just quickly say that there will be a panel with Wichita on Tuesday, April 1st from 10 to noon. And I know a few people have already, Dr. Bernstein, Barbara, a few folks have already agreed to be on that panel. If you would like to be on the panel, please put something in the chat or send me an email and I will invite you. We'd love to have you and your thoughts as board members. And Dr. Bernstein does have to leave the meeting early. Thank you so much for being here. So yeah, my pleasure to turn the time over to our wonderful evaluators of our Full Service Community Schools federal grant, which is called the All Hands In Project. So this is Catherine Wolf Bornhorst from Born Ingenuity and Dr. Michelle Bloodworth from Insight Allies. And I will give just a little brief history since I was the one who actually wrote the grant. And so this is all my, it's all my fault that we have. It's a fabulous project. We really have been so excited about it. Of course, we didn't know what we didn't know at the time, right? And we didn't quite know what we were getting into. And I don't know if any of you have ever written a federal grant before, but they only give you 30 days. And so it's a very quick turnaround. And so we quickly engaged Del Norte High School for a couple of reasons. One, that Principal Bortot is just wonderful, and he has been a community school principal for a very long time and has just such a community school heart. And Del Norte High School has the highest population of Native American students in high schools in APS, and it also is the home of high school student deaf and hard of hearing program, which was important to us. All three of these schools house the deaf and hard of hearing program for APS. The grant that we wrote was called an expansion grant. And so what that meant is we took two existing community schools and added one more that wasn't yet a community school. And the one that we added was Hodgen. And the principal at the time at Hodgen had been asking and asking and asking to be a community school. And we just hadn't figured out the funding to make that happen for him yet. And so this grant was an opportunity to complete this feeder pattern pipeline and also engage Hodgen as a new community school. You know, we often talk about the deficits in education in New Mexico, and I don't really want to bring us down by saying those things, but we know that we have challenges, right, around educational outcomes in New Mexico. And so this grant was an opportunity for us to create our own learning lab where we could really try some innovative solutions in a feeder pattern. What mattered to us and what still matters to us in this project is that teachers and students and families in these schools really get to experience what it's like to have a community school education all the way from pre-K to 12th grade. And what does that mean? What does that look like? How do we make those connections from elementary to middle and middle to high? And who do we engage to do that? We have some really exciting, innovative work to highlight for you today around that vertical articulation and around the thoughts of the practitioners. I will say that this is extra work, and I want to recognize the extra work and effort that has been put into place by the ABC team. We have Lindsay Wilwall, who is the director of this project and puts in her full-time job is managing this and reporting and doing all the things required by the federal Department of Education and working very closely with the schools to help them succeed. We've got our evaluators who work with us so closely, and of course our wonderful principals at all three schools, fantastic community school coordinators at all three schools, and just amazing partners that have come to the table with their full hearts and wallets and all the resources that they bring. And so I'm very happy to turn the time over to Michelle and Catherine to show you the progress that we have made in our first 2 years of this project.
Yeah, thank you, Deanna, for that overview and setting that context. And just so you know, we know that there's a lot in here. We will make these slides available so you can go back and reference some of what you're about to see. And this is going to be a bit intentionally shorter. As the next board meeting, we're going to have some of the people who've been part of our data collection process and some of our AHI partners presenting more comprehensively and in detail the work that's been going on in AHI. And I just want to lift up that really two of the primary focus areas for this work and for our evaluation then is to be really looking at the students and families that have been served as part of this work, and also what it means around community school implementation. How do we sustain it? How are we really building and expanding this transformative framework that we want to learn from and continue to sustain? And just as by the way, Michelle and I have been long super fans of ABC and also get the pleasure of being evaluators. Michelle starting her work in community schools actually in Chicago in 2004 and has been directly connected to ABC's work since 2007. And I got my start in community schools actually as a teacher in Cincinnati back in 2009. And I've been involved in ABC's work in 2012. So it's been really remarkable to be part of such a history here and to see it evolve. And it certainly contributes to the way that we see ourselves in this work and we see ABC's evolution. And just a little bit about the nature of our approach and our learning. In a traditional evaluation, you would have an outside expert come in, tell us at the end of whatever was happening if it was successful or not. But there's an issue with that approach that it doesn't really fit our context. It's often too late to really make meaningful changes. And so if something isn't working, we don't find out until the evaluation's over. And it also doesn't take into account often the people that are most affected, like our students, our educators, our community members. And so Michelle and I, as learning partners, we use what we call a participatory and developmental approach. And so instead of waiting until the end of our 5-year grant period or the end of school years to understand if we were successful, we're using real-time learning to adapt and improve as we go. And our approach is participatory in the way that it really involves the people that are most affected. Again, our students, our community members, our educators, our community partners. They're part of our data collection process. They're part of our interpretation of results. And in doing so, our evaluation process is really reflecting their lived experiences, not just what outside evaluators think is most important. And what we mean by developmental is that it really refers to this ongoing process where we're learning as we go and we adjust in real time. Oop, didn't mean to do that. And so a few things that are fundamental learning activities related to participatory and developmental evaluation is this first one is what we've been calling it like a group visioning and strategic planning. I'll actually share a brief example of what that looks like. But as Deanna mentioned, we're part of this visioning, we're part of the strategic planning in an iterative space. We've also had an advisory board convening where we engaged APS leadership and APS school boards, ABC board members, and community partners around like how do we continue to understand this process and this project. We have ongoing planning for and participation in the AHI project meetings. And we bring data to this process. Sometimes this data looks like the traditional data we think about as it relates to schools, but sometimes it's what we heard from a community partner. It's what we saw and observed in a meeting. It's informal and informal ways that we're really bringing data back into these spaces. We engaged in key stakeholder interviews. We had 13 one-on-one interviews. You'll hear some of those themes and findings actually shared today. And by the end of this school year, we will have observations of our community school council meetings in the 3 schools, as well as observations at instructional councils. This is the example of how we put together our logic model. So I think Barbara Peterson was there. I know Danette was there. After the conclusion of the proposal, we took pause and we said, it's funded. We wrote what we needed to write for it being funded. And now what does it mean for us? And so we literally deconstructed, as you see on the right in that image, what was proposed. And our community partners, our principals, our coordinators, other educators, staff, were all able to think about the feasibility of doing this work, again, making it meaningful for us. And this is what it resulted in after a few different iterations. I know this is super small for what you can see, but I'll zoom us in on a few things that are really grounding what Michelle and I are sharing with you today. These are the goals and objectives that we're attending to. All students having access to equitable education, of course, being one of the most fundamental ways that we're understanding this work. And then I want to zoom into the top left part of the logic model, because really this is the crux of what we're sharing today, is that this feeder pattern model has really emerged as a significant and transformative way of thinking about implementing the community school strategy. And we see a lot of direct relationship to the ABC board goal, which is looking at igniting students and families and school staff to foster these authentic solutions and facilitate responsive decision-making. And so now Michelle I'm turning it to her to begin to tease out some of these early themes and findings as to how we see these monthly meetings are creating these very organic spaces.
Thank you, Catherine. Yeah, and again, like what I'm about to share has come from a process of interviewing key, everyone who's like part of the, or most of the people part of the AHI project, and gathering those different perspectives and then bringing that back to that group to kind of wrestle with and further synthesize. So that's what we're bringing here today. Meetings are not typically something that emerge as something important or a theme when we're doing this kind of work. And so it was rather interesting when that started to be something that people talked a lot about when we were interviewing them, and went along with what we were observing, that this space that got created, and I don't think during the proposal writing, even though it was an excellent proposal, obviously, it got funded in this really competitive grant process, but the fact of creating space and having people come together and interact in that space wasn't fully known as a critical piece, but it kept emerging as we talked to folks. We originally brought everybody together because we recognized that, like Deanna said, the process of writing the grants quick and the depth of engagement wasn't possible during that time. And we really knew for this to be alive for 5 years that the people in the schools and the partners needed to own it. And so we began working on the puzzle kind of practice that Catherine showed. And we began from there. And what happened was that all of these little conversations happened and people sharing. And people, when we said, do you want to meet again next month? Everybody's like, yes. And it was surprising in some ways, the level, given everybody's packed calendars, that there was something unique happening in this space that supported everybody in wanting to continue to be engaged. There was a richness and an innovation that began to emerge from bringing these varied perspectives and experiences and people together that wouldn't have been possible in any kind of separate way. And it really wasn't something that we totally anticipated. So it was an unexpected outcome that's really been supportive of the work. And what's happened since, as I mentioned, like we've been able to continue to meet and engage. And what we heard from those that we spoke with was a feeling of that space being different, different in the ways that it encouraged their engagement. There was a lot of trust and vulnerability that people commented on in that space, being able to say what was true and real for them, being able to note the challenges in their school, and to be able to and so that's part of what everyone was experiencing, or what many people talked about as that space. And what emerged from that was in a lot of problem solving and experimentation. Different folks have talked about it as almost a lab. So I'm going to share some quotes that come from what people were sharing. And sorry, just a second. And so, well, the first quote is, oh, sorry. So we didn't feel like what school leaders said was more valuable than what community school coordinators said. It really looked like a lot of relationship building and norms were established, and I could just go into the space and didn't feel like an outsider. So that spoke to kind of the feeling of there not being as much hierarchy and everybody being engaged in the process. And yet, as we know, that that in a lot of spaces, that it's not, this is continuing to grow. And this is another perspective. You know, as a community partner, I can still get the attitude or perception that my input matters less than school staff within the AHI meetings. And this typically comes from school staff, not ABC or other partners. It just speaks to the real challenges. You know, one of the cornerstones, a key principle within the community school strategy, is collaborative leadership. And we know it's critical, and yet it's really challenging, you know, to be able to turn to somebody sitting next to you and really ask it, what do you think? And to listen and to be able to make decisions from a shared space. And so while there's a lot of, you know, so this is like an edge, you know, to continue to stretch into, and a place to practice that.
Yeah, and hey,
AHI meeting.
I'm so
Yeah.
sorry. We're gonna have to send out the quotes. Do we want to skip to just what these direct ones are and give them a taste for the future, because we're running a little behind on the agenda?
Sure. And so the ways that these AHI meetings have become like an engaged space for planning and action kind of validates that value of collaboration and highlights the needs for supports that are needed. So what came out from that, and that also this wasn't, you know, this wasn't all conceived of when the proposal was written. It's emerged from the work. And so what has emerged is additional spaces that have gotten created where different combinations of individuals from different roles have also, other spaces have been created where they connect and rich things are emerging. So in addition to the monthly meetings I just talked about, there's also spaces where more detailed planning happens with the coordinators and their principal, and the director of AHI, Lindsay, meets. And then there's also the team meetings where our school, or meetings that happen within the school on a regular basis. Part of what has emerged that's really exciting and is possible in this feeder pattern is this vertical articulation professional development, where teachers across AHI schools have come together. For instance, like teachers at Hodgins are coming together in PD with teachers from McKinley. They're talking and connecting and building relationships where they can understand, where a teacher who's teaching in the middle school can help articulate and share with the teacher in the elementary school what it is that they're really needing students to come prepared for. And through that, really understanding each other and understanding both the opportunities and the challenges that they face. And so the teachers have found those vertical articulation professional developments to be really rich spaces that are going to be continued. There was also, as Deanna mentioned before, about councils in each school. We had a council meeting that brought all the councils together that are part of AHI. The graduate profile conversations, which I know you'll learn more about, included students and families and community members and parts of the council. And so it's another space that was coming, that people were coming together to learn together. And then another opportunity was rotating homework diner. There's a homework diner that takes place and it rotates between Hodgins and McKinley. And so the parents get an opportunity to be in a school. Like if their child is currently a student at a Hodgin, they get to go into McKinley and be in a school where their youngster will go or may go in the future, and getting to meet those teachers. And there's just a lot of richness that comes from that. And I know we'll share the rest of the quotes, and we'll have more opportunity next month to tell you more.
Thank you. And colleagues, I'm going to see if there are any comments or questions on this item. It's very, very exciting. I just want to do a quick time check. I know we want to be really respectful of everyone's time. I wanted to just ask if it's possible for us to end today at closer to 9:50 so we could have the next presentation and announcements. So 5 minutes over, is that all right with everyone? Okay, great. Thank you so much. I'm going to move right over then to Community School Essentials Key Practices in Action. And Commissioner Baca, I didn't know if you wanted to maybe make some opening comments before we went to our principals, our Principal Ramsey.
No, I'd like to just hear from the principal. Yeah.
All right, from the warrior on the ground, let's see. We're all waiting with bated breath. Go ahead.
Oh my goodness. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having us. I'm sitting here with Daisy Aguilar, our community coordinator as well. So we have had the opportunity this school year to host the Mountain View Community Conversation. So that means that we've been the hub for this conversation around the changes that are occurring in our community, currently some development work. So from this, we've created a campus-wide project-based learning project around Plan the Park, which is coming to our area. The Bernalillo County, they came out to our fall festival in, I believe it was October, and they surveyed our families, what would you like to see in the park? The same kind of work that was happening for the community as a whole, but then they came to our school community and got input. And from there, we did develop this project-based learning opportunity for our students. So every grade level had the chance to develop what they want in their park. So a lot of our students came up with ideas, and teachers started the groundwork with our language arts program. They were doing a lot of inquiry work within that as well. So for example, first grade, they were learning about ecosystems and camouflage. So they thought about an activity for families to do within that park, using camouflage insects. So how many insects can you find in a park? So every grade level really took on their own theme and inquiry question and designed a park and activities for families to do. Fourth grade took the inclusive design. So thinking about students with disabilities, what can parks offer for everybody, being inclusive? It was just really neat to see the campus come together. And then we got to host Bernalillo County's Parks and Rec Department come for student presentations. And it was just really moving to see this work and from the lens of our students. Daisy, I don't know if you want to add anything else, but
yeah, I mean, I think it was very neat to see all stakeholders being involved in the decision making for their community and their schools. So that's definitely something that we saw evolving like from the beginning. the first few community conversations, it was very focused on people who had been attending these meetings previously. And by this last one, when we had all the student involvement, we just had so many parents and local community members who maybe it was their first time hearing about it. And so it was just very nice that we could have that space for everybody to be involved in the decision making.
And Commissioner Baca, he came, I believe, to the first meeting that we hosted in the fall. And so it's been very exciting for him to be part of this work and see us grow it throughout this school year. So we're very fortunate for that.
If I may just chime in, Madam Chair and President from the school, as I've said in email to different people, I've literally attended hundreds of community meetings in my life, hundreds. I can't even begin to. That's not an exaggeration. And this is by far one of the best, if not the best meeting I've ever attended. And it was very subject matter oriented in the sense that there was a community initiative towards a park and to integrate the students. As I indicated in an email I sent out to some people, I don't know who was more excited, our staff getting all these great ideas for free, the students when they got up there to present, the parents who were just absolutely beaming, or just community members, people who live in the area who were just so excited about the discussion. It was just really an awesome experience. And yeah, it just, and just as an aside, real quickly, just in talking to the folks in Mountain View, I also learned about their very high percentage of attendance that they are very, very, very proud of. And I don't know if the principal or the community school coordinator would like to mention that, but to me, that's really one of the hallmarks of a successful community school program. So thank you all for hosting us and doing that. And it was just a great experience.
Our pleasure.
Well, and
Yes,
congratulations. Oh, go ahead, please.
Oh, no, I was just going to speak to our attendance. It's definitely been, an initiative. I know, in APS as a whole, but for us here at Mountain View, growing enrollment, starting at 192 students 2 years ago, now being close to 240, and really leveraging our partnerships, through the work of Daisy and finding connections to families. This year has been the opportunity to work with the community as a whole, which we've seen a big impact on as well, and families feeling safe and open just to come to school, offer their voice and know that they're being heard. So I feel like all those things have definitely impacted our attendance and enrollment.
Yeah, we also have a great partnership with the Assistance League of New Mexico. And so I talked to Commissioner Frank Baca about the initiatives that we have of spelling out MV teams. And then the whole classroom gets a pizza party. And so we're lucky to have that partnership as well that's helping probably lead that high percentage of attendance.
Yeah, well, here's what we know, pizza works. But
True, especially for elementary.
Right. But let me say how just excited we are about your work, and both Daisy and Principal Ramsey, just to say thank you to you, because all of the work that we're doing is really to acknowledge and support and lift up what you do every day. And Commissioner Baca has given our board and our staff at the county and through Danette Townsend's leadership, a real focus on community engagement. And so this is very meaningful for us for a lot of different reasons, besides that little voices should count. But in addition to that, learning how to have deep and meaningful relationships with the community that result in dramatic change, like increased enrollment, like increased attendance. So thank you so much for your excellent, excellent work. And I'm looking forward to seeing those little maps that we're drawing. We've got our wish list, and
good.
Commissioner Baca is going to be making sure he's looking at us very carefully. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
And
Thank
Deanna,
you.
I'm going to just turn over, if it's okay, to our announcements. And may I turn to you for that?
Yes, I'm happy to make this announcement on behalf of board member Josefina Dominguez. So just in the spirit of these fantastic community meetings, the APS board services has agreed that hosting community meetings in community schools is a really, really good idea and a great way to gain some authentic feedback and engagement from communities. And so as a result, you are all invited to join 2 upcoming community meetings with the APS Board of Education. So the first one is Tuesday, March 25th, and that will be at Lavaland Elementary, but it will be Lavaland, John Adams, and West Mesa, and then their surrounding community. All three of those community school coordinators and principals will be present, and so will community school council members who will be leading table discussions around how the community school strategy impacts chronic absenteeism specifically. And so that's a great opportunity to connect. And then there's a homework diner that is happening on Thursday, March 27th, as we referenced homework diner earlier in the AHI project. So this is Hodgen, Del Norte, and McKinley hosting homework diner at Hodgen on Thursday, the 27th, 4:30 to 7 o'clock. And they'll be doing a really special exercises and family activities around social and emotional learning and the culture and sense of belonging, safety, and care for students and their families. So you are all welcome. I will send out this slide deck and all the announcements so you have those on your calendar. And then there's one last announcement that ABC is working on. It's a save the date for our very first community school innovation practicum. That'll be April 29th and 30th. Right now, it is for principals, community school coordinators, transformation coaches, student success resource teachers, and family liaisons in APS priority schools. And we will hear from APS next month, more details on what that means. Just wanted to send out that save the date. That was it for announcements from me.
Wonderful. Let me just see if there are any of my colleagues who would like to make announcements before we wrap up. I don't see any hands raised. Well, let me just say how much we appreciate all of you. I'm really excited about the upcoming events. Thank you, Deanna, for getting those out to us. And I'll look forward to meeting you at our next meeting. Deanna, do you know when it is?
Yes, it is going to be Thursday, April 10th. Is that right? Let me check. Yep, Thursday, April 10th, 8:45.
Excellent, excellent. We will see you all then, and keep up the great work. Be well all. Thank you.
Thank you so much.